The fluorescent lights of St. Catherine's Hospital hummed overhead, casting everything in that sickly yellow glow that made even healthy people look half dead. I'd been staring at those lights for 3 hours now, my daughter Lily burning up with fever in my arms, while we waited in the emergency room that smelled of antiseptic and desperation. At 26, I should have had my life together. Instead, I was counting coins in my purse, praying I had enough for the copay, wearing scrubs from my double shift at the diner because I hadn't had time to change. Lily whimpered against my chest, her small body radiating heat through her pink onesie. She was only 8 months old, with my dark hair and those impossibly big eyes that looked too wise for a baby, the eyes that reminded me every day of my mistake, of Marcus, her father, who disappeared the moment I showed him the positive pregnancy test. Good riddance, my mother had said, but it didn't make the nights any easier, didn't make the bills any smaller. Shh, baby girl, I whispered, rocking her gently. We'll see the doctor soon. The waiting room was packed with the usual Friday night crowd, a man holding a bloodied towel to his head, a teenager with a swollen ankle, an elderly woman coughing into her handkerchief. We were all just numbers, all just waiting. I checked my phone again. 11:47 p.m. My shift at Marco's Diner started at 6 in the morning. If I was lucky, I'd get 3 hours of sleep. My phone buzzed. A text from my neighbor, Rita, the 60-something woman who watched Lily when I worked and never charged me enough. How's the baby? Do you need anything? I started typing back, my fingers clumsy with exhaustion. Rita had given me her new number earlier that week, and I'd saved it quickly between serving tables and changing diapers. I pulled up what I thought was her contact. She's burning up. Still waiting. They said 3-4 hour wait. I'm so tired. Don't know how I'll manage the morning shift. Can you possibly watch her tomorrow? I'll pay you Monday when I get my check. I hit send and closed my eyes, leaning my head back against the plastic chair. Lily's breathing was raspy, her little chest rising and falling too quickly. Fear clawed at my throat. What if it was serious? What if it was pneumonia, or worse? What if I couldn't afford the treatment? My phone buzzed almost immediately. Who is this? I frowned at the screen. Rita must have been half asleep, confused. It's Emma. Emma Santos, from 4B. You're watching Lily for me, remember? The response came faster this time. Wrong number. My stomach dropped. I pulled up my contacts, scrolling frantically. There it was. I'd transposed 2 digits when saving Rita's new number. The realization hit me like cold water. Some stranger now knew I was alone at a hospital at midnight with a sick baby. Knew I was broke. Knew I was desperate. I'm so sorry. Please delete this. Wrong number. I waited for a confirmation, for some acknowledgement, but nothing came. The stranger had gone silent. I tried to shake off the creeping embarrassment, but something felt wrong. The air in the waiting room suddenly felt thicker, harder to breathe. Emma Santos? A nurse appeared in the doorway, clipboard in hand. Relief flooded through me, finally. I stood, gathering Lily closer, grabbing my purse. We followed the nurse through the double doors, down a hallway that smelled like bleach and bad coffee, into a small examination room with a paper-covered table and more of those horrible fluorescent lights. The doctor will be right in, the nurse said, taking Lily's temperature. 103.2. We'll get her something for that fever. She left us alone. I sat on the examination table. Lily curled against me, and tried not to think about the bill I'd be getting in a few weeks. Tried not to think about the electricity that needed paying, the rent that was already late, the formula I'd need to buy. My phone buzzed again. I almost didn't look, assuming it was Rita with the correct number. But curiosity won. St. Catherine's Hospital? My blood ran cold. The stranger. I hadn't mentioned which hospital. My fingers trembled as I typed. How did you know? Lucky guess. What's wrong with the baby? Every instinct screamed at me to block the number, to ignore this invasive stranger, but something in the directness of the question, the lack of pleasantries, made me pause. There was authority in those words, expectation. High fever. Why do you care? I don't. But you texted me, so now I'm involved. The logic was twisted, unsettling. I should have ended it there, should have blocked the number and forgotten about it. But I was so tired, so alone, and there was something almost solid about this stranger's presence, even through a screen, like he was actually listening. Well, you can uninvolve yourself. Sorry again for the mistake. I set my phone down, face down on the table, and focused on Lily. Her fever had made her lethargic, her usual babbling reduced to weak whimpers. I kissed her forehead, tasting the salt of her sweat, and hummed the lullaby my mother used to sing to me. The doctor came in 20 minutes later, young and exhausted looking, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. He examined Lily thoroughly, asking questions I answered mechanically. Yes, she'd been fussy for 2 days. No, no one else was sick at home. Yes, she was eating. No, I hadn't noticed a rash. It's an ear infection, he finally said, straightening. Both ears, actually. Pretty severe. I'll prescribe antibiotics. She should start feeling better within 24 hours. Thank you, I breathed, the relief almost painful. Thank you so much. He smiled, scribbling on his prescription pad. Make sure she finishes all the medication, even if she seems better. And if the fever doesn't break by tomorrow night, bring her back. He handed me the prescription, and I stared at it, my relief curdling into dread. Antibiotics. Expensive antibiotics. I'd have to call the pharmacy, ask about generic options, maybe see if they had a payment plan. The nurse will give you the discharge papers, the doctor said, already moving toward the door. Take care. And then we were alone again, Lily and me against the world. I gathered our things slowly, mechanically, my mind already calculating and recalculating my budget. Skip lunch next week, take extra shifts, maybe ask Marco for an advance, though he'd already given me one last month. My phone buzzed as I was signing the discharge papers. What did the doctor say? The stranger again. I should have been annoyed, should have been frightened, but I was too exhausted for either emotion. Ear infection. Antibiotics. We're fine. The medication is expensive. It wasn't a question. Somehow this stranger knew. Maybe he had kids. Maybe he'd been through this before. Or maybe he just understood what it meant when someone texted at midnight saying they couldn't afford tomorrow. I'll manage. No, you won't. The bluntness of it stung. I felt tears prick my eyes, hot and unwelcome. Who was this person to judge me, to see through my careful pretending? I have to go. I blocked the number with shaking hands, shoved my phone in my purse, and carried Lily out into the cold November night. The parking lot was nearly empty, just a few cars scattered under the orange streetlights. My Honda was in the far corner, the driver's side door still dented from where Marcus had backed into a pole 6 months ago, right before he left. I was halfway to my car when I noticed the black SUV. It was parked directly under a streetlight, impossibly clean and clearly expensive, with tinted windows that reflected the orange glow. Everything about it screamed money and power. The kind of vehicle I saw in movies, not in the hospital parking lot at 1 a.m. As I passed it, the driver's side door opened. A man stepped out, and the air changed. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my car. Even in the dim light, I could see the sharp cut of his jaw. The dark hair slicked back, the way he moved with absolute certainty. He couldn't have been much older than 35, but he carried himself like someone who'd lived 100 years, seen everything, feared nothing. Behind him, another man emerged from the passenger side, bigger, scarred, watching me with the flat eyes of a predator. Emma Santos? The first man's voice was deep, accented with something I couldn't place. Italian, maybe. Russian. Something that spoke of old money and older violence. I froze. Lily clutched against my chest. Who's asking? He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. You texted me. An hour ago. The world tilted. The stranger. The wrong number, but I'd blocked him. How was he? How did you find me? My voice came out thin, frightened. I took a step back. You told me which hospital. He moved closer, not threatening, just inevitable, like a storm rolling in. You mentioned your daughter's name, Emma Santos, 4B. It wasn't difficult. That's stalking. I'm calling the police. I fumbled for my phone with one hand, the other locked around Lily. No, you're not. He was in front of me now, close enough that I could smell his cologne. Expensive, dark, with notes of cedar and smoke, because I'm here to help. I don't need help, especially not from a creep who tracks down women from hospitals. Something flickered in his eyes, amusement maybe, or respect. You need help. You can't afford the medication. You have a shift in 6 hours. You live alone. He tilted his head slightly, and Marcus Delgado, your daughter's father, owes me a considerable amount of money. The parking lot spun. Marcus. This stranger knew Marcus. I don't know anything about Marcus's debts, I said, my voice stronger now, anger burning through the fear. He left before she was born. Whatever he owes you has nothing to do with me or my daughter. I agree. The man's expression didn't change, but something in his posture relaxed fractionally. His debts are not yours, but when I received your text tonight, when I saw the name Emma Santos, I had my people look into it. Imagine my surprise when I discovered Marcus Delgado had a child he never mentioned. Why would he mention her to you? Who are you? My name is Dante Moretti. He said it like I should know it, like the name itself carried weight. And maybe it did, in his world. And Marcus stole from me $300,000. Then he disappeared. My legs went weak. $300,000. That was why Marcus had run. Not because of me, not because of the baby, because he'd stolen from someone dangerous. I don't have your money, I whispered. I know. Dante's eyes dropped to Lily, and something shifted in his expression. It was brief, so brief I might have imagined it, but for just a moment he looked almost soft. How old is she? 8 months. She looks like him, around the eyes. I didn't want to agree, didn't want to give Marcus any claim to Lily's beauty, but it was true. She had his eyes, that particular shade of hazel that changed in different lights. Mr. Moretti, I don't know where Marcus is. I haven't heard from him since I told him I was pregnant. If you're looking for him, I can't help you. I've already found him. Dante's voice went cold, flat. He won't be a problem anymore. The implication hung in the air like a noose. I held Lily tighter, my heart hammering. Then why are you here? Dante reached into his jacket. I flinched, but he only pulled out an envelope. He held it out to me. Open it. I don't want... Open it. There was steel beneath the calm of his voice. This was a man used to being obeyed. With trembling fingers, I shifted Lily to one hip and took the envelope. Inside was cash. A lot of cash. More money than I'd seen in my entire life. What is this? $10,000, Dante said. For the medication. For your rent. For whatever you need. I shoved the envelope back at him. I don't take charity. Especially not blood money. It's not charity. He didn't take the envelope back, letting my hand hover in the air between us. Consider it an investment. In what? In my goddaughter. The world stopped. Completely stopped. I stared at him. At this dangerous stranger in his expensive suit, and couldn't process the words. What did you say? Marcus was my business partner before he decided to become a thief. Under our agreement, I'm godfather to any children he has, which makes Lily, he gestured to my daughter, my responsibility. That's insane. You can't just... Marcus never... The agreement is legally binding. Dante's voice was matter of fact, discussing this nightmare like it was a business transaction. I take the role seriously. Lily is under my protection now, which means you are too. I don't want your protection. We're fine. You blocked my number after texting me about your financial problems. You're working double shifts on no sleep. Your car is falling apart. Your daughter has an ear infection you can't afford to treat. Dante stepped closer, and I could feel the heat of him, the sheer presence. You are many things, Emma Santos. But you are not fine. Lily stirred against me, whimpering. Dante's eyes dropped to her again, and again I saw that flicker of something human beneath the cold exterior. I don't know you, I said desperately. I don't trust you. For all I know, you're lying about everything. Then verify it. Call Marcus's mother. She knows me. He pulled out his phone, scrolled, then showed me a contact. Maria Delgado, Marcus's mother, who I'd met once at a family barbecue. who'd been kind to me before Marcus left. Call her. Ask her about Dante Moretti. Ask her about the Godfather agreement. My hands shook as I stared at the number. This was crazy, all of it, but Lily was hot against my chest and the prescription was in my purse, and the rent was late, and I was so tired. I need to think, I whispered. Then think, but take this. Dante pressed the envelope into my free hand, closing my fingers around it. His hand was warm, calloused, surprisingly gentle. For her. Not for you, not for me. For her. He stepped back, nodded to the scarred man, and moved toward the SUV. Wait, I called out before I could stop myself. Why do you care? Really? Dante paused, his hand on the car door. For a long moment, he didn't answer. Then, without turning around, because I understand what it means to grow up without a father, and no child of Marcus Delgado's will suffer that fate if I can prevent it. He slid into the SUV, and it pulled away, taillights disappearing into the night. I stood alone in the parking lot, Lily in one arm, an envelope of cash in my other hand, and my entire world tilted on its axis. The hospital's automatic doors whooshed open behind me, and a nurse called out, "Ma'am, you forgot your discharge papers." I turned, mechanically taking the papers, mechanically walking to my car, mechanically buckling Lily into her car seat, but my mind was spinning, racing, trying to understand what had just happened. Dante Moretti, Godfather, protection, blood money. I looked at the envelope on my passenger seat. $10,000. For her, he'd said, for her. I started the car and drove home through empty streets, my phone burning in my purse with a blocked number and 1,000 unanswered questions. I didn't sleep that night. Lily finally dozed off around 3 a.m, her fever breaking slightly after I'd given her the infant Tylenol from our medicine cabinet, the last dose in the bottle. I'd laid her in her crib, watching her chest rise and fall, her little fists curled beside her face, and felt the weight of Dante Moretti's envelope like a stone in my pocket. Our apartment was small, cramped, but it was ours. One bedroom that Lily and I shared, a living room barely big enough for our secondhand couch, a kitchen with appliances that worked when they felt like it. The walls were thin enough that I could hear Mrs. Chen upstairs walking around, could hear the couple in 4C fighting about money again. The radiator clanked and hissed, never quite warm enough in winter, and there was a water stain on the ceiling that grew a little bigger every time it rained. But it was home. It was safe. It was what I could afford. I sat on the couch in the dark, the envelope on the coffee table in front of me, and stared at it like it might explode. $10,000. I could pay rent for 6 months, buy Lily proper winter clothes, fix the car, stock the fridge with actual food instead of ramen and whatever was on sale. Get ahead, finally, instead of drowning. But it was blood money. Dante Moretti wasn't a businessman. Men like him didn't drive around at 1 a.m. with armed guards and envelopes full of cash because they ran legitimate operations. Whatever he did, whoever he was, it was dangerous. Criminal. And he'd called himself Lily's godfather. My phone sat next to the envelope, Maria Delgado's number glowing on the screen. I'd pulled it up a dozen times, my finger hovering over the call button, but I couldn't make myself press it. What would I even say? "Hi, Mrs. Delgado. Your son stole money from the Mafia and now a criminal wants to be my daughter's godfather?" The sky was turning gray when I finally picked up the phone and dialed. It rang 4 times. I almost hung up. Then, "Hello?" Maria's voice was groggy, confused. "Who is this?" "Mrs. Delgado, it's Emma. Emma Santos. Marcus is..." "Emma." She was suddenly wide awake. "Dios mío, Emma. How are you? How is the baby? I've been trying to reach Marcus, but he won't..." "Marcus is gone," I said quietly. "He's been gone since before Lily was born." Silence, then softer. "I'm so sorry, mija. He was always running from something. I hoped maybe with a baby he would finally..." She sighed. "You said Lily? You named her Lily?" "Yes. That's beautiful." I could hear her moving, maybe making coffee, the sounds of a kitchen coming to life. "Why are you calling at 5 a.m? Is something wrong?" "I need to ask you about someone." Dante Moretti. The silence that followed was different. Heavier. When Maria spoke again, her voice was careful, measured. How do you know that name? He found me last night, at the hospital. He said... I swallowed hard. He said he's Lily's godfather. That Marcus had some kind of agreement with him. Mierda, Maria breathed. Marcus was supposed to... That boy never thinks. Never. So it's true? This agreement exists? Yes. Maria's voice was tight. When Marcus started working for Mr. Moretti 5 years ago, they made an arrangement. Traditional, from the old country. Any children Marcus had would be under Mr. Moretti's protection. It was supposed to be an honor, a sign of trust. But then Marcus... She stopped. He stole from him, I finished. You know about that? Dante told me. He said Marcus isn't a problem anymore. Another heavy silence. Emma, listen to me very carefully. Dante Moretti is a dangerous man. But he is also a man of honor. If he says he's Lily's godfather, he means it. He will protect her with his life. But there are rules in his world. Expectations. You need to be very, very careful. My hands were shaking again. What kind of expectations? Respect? Loyalty? You don't question him in front of others. You never ever betray him. Maria paused. But if you follow those rules, you and Lily will be safer than you've ever been. No one will touch you. No one will dare. I don't want to be part of his world. You already are, Mija. The moment Marcus got you pregnant, you became part of this. The only question is whether you accept Mr. Moretti's protection or face his world alone. I closed my eyes. What should I do? Take his help. Keep your head down. Raise your daughter. And pray that Marcus's sins don't come back to haunt all of us. We talked for a few more minutes. Maria asked about Lily, promised to visit soon, made me promise to call if I needed anything. But her words echoed in my head long after we hung up. You already are. At 6:30, my alarm went off. I hadn't set it. I'd been awake the whole time, but the sound still made me jump. Work. I had to get to work. I dragged myself off the couch, my body heavy with exhaustion, and went through the motions. Shower. Coffee. Wake Lily up gently, change her diaper, dress her in the little yellow outfit with the ducks on it. Her fever had dropped. Not gone, but better. The medication would help more once I filled the prescription, once I used Dante's money. Rita knocked on my door at 7:15, right on time. Her round face creased with worry. How is she? Did they figure it out? Ear infection. She needs antibiotics. I handed Lily over, grabbed my purse, tried to smile. I left bottles in the fridge. If her fever spikes again, call me immediately. Of course, of course. Rita bounced Lily gently, making soothing noises. You look terrible, Mija. Did you sleep at all? A little. The lie came easily. I'll be back by 3. The diner was already busy when I arrived. The morning rush in full swing. Marco's diner was a fixture in this neighborhood. Red vinyl booths, checkered floors, the smell of bacon grease and burnt coffee permanently embedded in the walls. I'd worked here for 3 years since before Lily, saving up for a better life that never seemed to arrive. You're late, Marco growled as I tied my apron. He was a big man, all stomach and scowl, but generally fair. Table 6 needs their order taken. Sorry, boss. I grabbed my notepad and dove into the familiar rhythm. Take orders, pour coffee, smile at customers who never looked at their waitress twice. I was invisible here, just another tired woman in a stained uniform, running from table to table for tips that barely covered gas. By 10, I was running on fumes and caffeine. My feet ached, my head pounded, and I kept thinking about Lily's fever, about the prescription I still hadn't filled, about the envelope of cash hidden in my purse in the break room. I was refilling coffee for a regular, old Mr. Patterson, who came in every day and always left exactly $2, when the diner went quiet. It was subtle at first. Conversations didn't stop exactly, but they lowered. People glanced toward the door, then quickly away. Even Marco, bellowing orders from the kitchen, went silent. I turned around. Dante Moretti stood in the doorway. He wore a different suit today, charcoal gray, perfectly tailored, with a black shirt underneath that made him look like he'd stepped out of a funeral or a movie about beautiful, deadly things. His dark eyes swept the diner with the precision of a man cataloging exits and threats, and when they landed on me, I felt it like a physical touch. Behind him, the scarred man from last night, his guard, his shadow, took up position by the door, watching. Always watching. "Emma!" Dante's voice carried across the diner. Not loud, but somehow impossible to ignore. "We need to talk." Every eye in the place was on me now. I felt my face burn, felt the weight of their curiosity and fear. Marco appeared from the kitchen, his expression caught between alarm and confusion. "Emma, you know this guy?" My voice wouldn't work properly. "I met him last night." "Well, tell him this ain't a place for—" Marco looked at Dante again, really looked at him, and whatever he saw made him swallow the rest of his sentence. "Tell him to make it quick. We're busy." Dante's lips curved slightly. Not quite a smile. "Of course." He walked toward me, and I swear the temperature in the room dropped. People moved out of his way without seeming to realize they were doing it. An instinctive response to predator. He stopped in front of me, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. "You didn't fill the prescription," he said. "How did you—" I stopped. Of course he knew. He probably had people watching me. The thought made my skin crawl, and something else I didn't want to examine. "That's none of your business. Everything about Lily is my business now." His voice was calm, matter of fact. "You're making this harder than it needs to be. I didn't ask for your help, no. You accidentally texted me, and fate decided I should be involved." He reached into his jacket and I tensed, but he only pulled out a phone. A new phone, still in its box. "Your number is already programmed in. Mine is the only other contact. You need something, you call me." "I don't want— This isn't a negotiation, Emma." His eyes were dark, patient, but underneath was steel. "You have a child to think about. Your pride is a luxury you can't afford." The words hit harder because they were true. I hated that they were true. "I'll fill the prescription today," I said quietly. "With my own money. You don't have enough." It wasn't a question. "Why are you fighting this?" "Because I don't trust you. Because men like you don't help people without wanting something in return. Because—" I lowered my voice, aware of everyone watching us. "Because I don't want Lily growing up in your world." Something flickered across Dante's face. For just a moment, his mask slipped, and I saw something raw underneath. Pain, maybe. Or memory. "I grew up in this world," he said softly. "I know exactly what it takes from children. That's why I'm making sure Lily never has to." He set the phone on the table between us. "Fill the prescription. Get her well. Then we'll talk about the rest." He turned to leave, and I don't know what possessed me. Exhaustion, desperation, or maybe just the way he'd said Lily like he actually cared. But I reached out and caught his arm. The scarred guard moved instantly, his hand going to his jacket. But Dante raised his other hand in a gesture that froze him mid-motion. "Wait," I said. "Just wait. If you really want to help, if this Godfather thing is real, then tell me the truth. What happened to Marcus?" Dante looked down at my hand on his arm, then back up at me. "You want the truth?" "Yes. He's alive. Barely. He's working off his debt in one of my warehouses. When he's paid back what he stole, he can go." His voice was cold, clinical. "He doesn't know about you. Or Lily. I haven't told him." "Why not?" "Because a man who runs from his responsibilities doesn't deserve to know about them." Dante gently removed my hand from his arm, but he didn't let go immediately. His thumb brushed across my knuckles. Barely a touch, but I felt it everywhere. He had something precious and threw it away. His loss is my gain. Before I could process that, before I could ask what he meant, he was gone. The SUV pulled away from the curb, and the diner slowly came back to life, conversations resuming in hushed, excited tones. Marco appeared at my elbow. "What the hell was that?" "I don't know," I whispered, staring at the phone on the table. "I really don't know." The rest of my shift passed in a blur. Customers asked questions I deflected. Marco watched me with worried eyes, and the phone sat in my apron pocket like a promise and a threat all at once. At 2:30, I couldn't take it anymore. I told Marco I was sick, which wasn't entirely a lie, and left early. I drove to the pharmacy, the envelope of cash still in my purse, and stood in line behind a mother with 3 kids and an elderly man arguing about his insurance. When it was my turn, I handed over the prescription with shaking hands. "That'll be $287, the pharmacist said. I opened the envelope. The cash was crisp, new, organized in neat stacks. I peeled off $300 bills, took the change, and shoved the rest back in my purse before I could change my mind. The antibiotics were in a white paper bag, innocent and ordinary, but they felt like chains. I drove home too fast, my mind racing. When I opened the apartment door, Rita looked up from where she was playing with Lily on the floor. "You're early. Is everything—" She stopped, seeing my face. "What happened?" "I need you to watch her a little longer." I set the medication on the counter, grabbed my purse. "There's something I need to do. Emma, you look like you're about to do something stupid." "Probably." I kissed Lily's forehead, breathed in her baby smell, milk and powder and something indefinably hers. "But I need answers. I had Dante's number now, and I was done being afraid." Back in my car, I pulled out the new phone he'd given me. One contact, Dante Moretti. My finger hovered over the call button. Maria's words echoed in my head. "You don't question him in front of others. You don't refuse his help. And you never, ever betray him." But I wasn't in front of others now, and I needed to understand what I'd gotten myself into. I pressed call. He answered on the first ring. "Emma, I want to see where Marcus is." The words came out in a rush. "If he's really alive, if he's really working for you, I want to see him." Silence. Then, "Why?" "Because I need closure. Because Lily deserves to know her father existed, even if he was a coward. Because—" My voice cracked. "Because I need to look him in the eye and know that leaving us was his choice, not yours." More silence. I could hear voices in the background, muffled, speaking in what sounded like Italian. "Address is being sent to your phone now," Dante said finally. "Be there at 7 tonight. Come alone. I don't have anyone to watch. I'll send someone. A woman. She's worked with children before, completely vetted. She'll arrive at 6:30. His voice softened slightly. "This isn't a place for a baby, Emma. What you're about to see, she shouldn't be there." What am I about to see? The consequences of betrayal, and what it means to be under my protection. The line went dead. I sat in my car outside my apartment building, watching the numbers change on my dashboard clock, and wondered if I'd just made the biggest mistake of my life. Or if the biggest mistake had been texting a wrong number at midnight, and everything after was just fate catching up with me. Either way, at 7 o'clock tonight, I would see Marcus again, and I would finally understand exactly what Dante Moretti wanted from me. The phone buzzed. An address in the industrial district, followed by a single line, "Don't be late." And Emma, wear something you don't mind getting dirty. My hands were shaking again, but this time, it wasn't from fear. It was anticipation. The woman who arrived at 6:30 was not what I expected. She was older, maybe 50, with silver-streaked hair pulled back in a neat bun and kind eyes that crinkled at the corners when she smiled. She wore simple clothes, jeans and a cardigan, and carried a bag that jingled with what sounded like toys. "Mrs. Santos, I'm Teresa." Her voice was warm, accented with the same Italian lilt as Dante's. "Mr. Moretti sent me to watch the baby." I stood in the doorway, Lily on my hip, every instinct screaming not to let this stranger into my home. But Teresa just waited patiently, her smile never wavering, until finally I stepped aside. "She just had her medication," I said, my voice tight. "She should sleep soon. There are bottles in the fridge if she wakes up hungry. And if anything happens, anything at all, you call me immediately." "Of course." Teresa set her bag down gently and held out her arms. "May I?" I hesitated, then passed Lily over. My daughter went willingly, her little hands reaching for Teresa's necklace, a simple gold cross that caught the light. Teresa bounced her gently, naturally, like she'd done this 1,000 times. I raised 5 children of my own, she said, reading my fear. And I've been with the Moretti family for 30 years. Your daughter is safe with me, Mrs. Santos. Safer than she'd be anywhere else in this city. There was truth in her words, but also something else. A reminder. The Moretti family. Not just Dante, but an entire organization. A world I was stepping into whether I wanted to or not. I grabbed my jacket, checked my purse 3 times for my keys, my phone, my pepper spray. I'll be back by 9, 10 at the latest. Take your time. Teresa was already settling onto the couch with Lily, pulling colorful blocks from her bag. We'll be just fine. The drive to the industrial district took 40 minutes through rush hour traffic. The address Dante had sent led me away from the familiar streets of my neighborhood, past the nicer parts of town with their coffee shops and boutiques, into an area I'd only ever seen from the highway. Warehouses stretched along empty streets, their windows dark or broken, graffiti covering concrete walls. A few trucks sat idle in loading docks, but mostly the area felt abandoned, forgotten. The address was a warehouse at the end of a dead-end street, surrounded by a chain-link fence topped with barbed wire. As I pulled up, 2 men in dark suits emerged from the shadows. Guards. Of course there were guards. One of them approached my window. I rolled it down, my heart hammering. "Emma Santos," I said, hating how small my voice sounded. "Dante is expecting me." The guard spoke into a radio, listened to a response I couldn't hear, then nodded. "Park over there. Someone will escort you inside." The fence rolled open with a metallic screech. I parked where he'd indicated, between a black Mercedes and another SUV identical to the one from last night. My Honda looked like a child's toy between them. The scarred guard from before, Dante's shadow, was waiting by the warehouse entrance. Up close, in the harsh security lights, I could see the full extent of his scars. They ran down the left side of his face, pulling his mouth into a permanent half-grimace. But his eyes, surprisingly, weren't cruel, just watchful. "This way," he said, his voice rough, like gravel. "And, Ms. Santos, stay close to me. Don't touch anything. Don't speak to anyone unless Mr. Moretti addresses you directly. What is this place? Somewhere you'll never have to come again if you follow the rules." He led me through a heavy metal door into a cavernous space that smelled of motor oil, concrete dust, and something else. Fear. The warehouse was divided into sections. I could see shipping containers stacked in one corner, what looked like an office with glass windows elevated above the main floor, and in the center, under harsh fluorescent lights, a group of men working. Working on what? I couldn't tell from this distance, but they moved with purpose, efficiency, loading and unloading crates with practiced precision. "Up here." The guard gestured to a metal staircase leading to the elevated office. My legs felt like water as I climbed. Through the glass, I could see Dante standing with his back to us, looking down at the warehouse floor below, a phone pressed to his ear. He was speaking Italian, fast and clipped, his free hand gesturing sharply. The guard knocked once. Dante turned, saw me, and ended his call mid-sentence. "Wait outside, Luca," he said. The scarred guard, Luca, nodded and took up position by the door, leaving me alone with Dante in a space that suddenly felt too small. "You came," Dante said, pocketing his phone. He studied me with those dark, unreadable eyes. "I wasn't sure you would. You said I could see Marcus, and you trust me enough to come alone to a warehouse in the middle of nowhere?" A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "Brave or foolish, I haven't decided which. Neither. Just desperate for answers." I forced myself to meet his gaze. "Where is he?" Dante moved to the glass window overlooking the warehouse floor and gestured for me to join him. I walked over slowly, aware of how close we were standing, how the air seemed charged between us. "There," he said, pointing. I followed his finger to a figure below, moving between the shipping containers. Even from this distance, even after a year, I recognized him. Marcus. His dark hair was longer now, pulled back in a ponytail, and he'd lost weight. But it was unmistakably him, the man who'd promised me forever and disappeared at the first sign of responsibility. "He works 12-hour shifts," Dante said conversationally, like he was discussing the weather. "Loading, unloading, inventory. He sleeps in a room in the back with 3 other men who owe me money. He eats what we provide. He doesn't leave the grounds. That's... I swallowed hard. That's slavery. That's justice. Dante's voice hardened. He stole $300,000, Emma. In my world, that's a death sentence. I'm being merciful. How long does he have to work? Until the debt is paid. At current rate, about 5 more years. 5 years. Marcus would be 33. Lily would be almost 6. She'd be in school, losing her baby face, becoming a person. And her father would be down there, a prisoner, because of his own greed. Does he ask about me? The question escaped before I could stop it. Dante turned to look at me fully. No. The word was a knife. Simple. Brutal. Honest. He doesn't even know you're looking for him. Dante continued. I asked, when we found him, when we brought him in. I said, anyone we should notify? Anyone worried about you? He said no. Didn't mention a girlfriend. Didn't mention a baby. His jaw tightened. Didn't mention you. Tears burned my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Not here. Not in front of Dante. Why are you telling me this? Because you need to understand something, Emma? He moved closer, and I could smell that cologne again. Cedar and smoke and something darker. Marcus doesn't deserve your tears. He doesn't deserve your anger. He doesn't even deserve your attention. He's nothing. Less than nothing. He's Lily's father. Biology isn't fatherhood. Dante's voice was soft but intense. I never knew my father. He died when I was 2, but I had a godfather who raised me, who taught me, who protected me. Blood doesn't make family. Loyalty does. Sacrifice does. I stared at him, at this dangerous man who spoke of family like it was sacred, who'd tracked me down because of a wrong number and decided my daughter was his responsibility. What do you want from us? I whispered. I want to keep you safe. I want Lily to grow up knowing she's protected. I want... He stopped, something flickering across his face. I want to do this right, the way my godfather did for me. And what does that mean? For me? For Lily? It means you move out of that apartment with the water-stained ceiling and the broken radiator. It means Lily sees the best doctors, goes to the best schools. It means you never have to work double shifts at a diner again, never have to count coins for medication. He paused. It means accepting that your life has changed, and fighting it will only make things harder. You're talking about controlling us. I'm talking about protecting you. There's a difference. Is there? I gestured to the window, to Marcus below. Because from where I'm standing, protection looks a lot like a cage. Dante's expression hardened. Marcus is in a cage because he betrayed me. You are under my protection because fate decided our paths should cross. Unless you plan to steal from me and disappear, your situation is nothing like his. But I don't have a choice, do I? You've decided you're Lily's godfather, decided we need protecting, decided our entire future. What if I say no? What if I take Lily and leave? The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Dante stepped closer, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact, close enough that I could see flecks of gold in his dark eyes. You could do that, he said quietly. You could pack your bags tonight, take your daughter, and run. I wouldn't stop you. Hope flared in my chest. Really? But the world is dangerous, Emma. Marcus isn't the only person I've done business with. There are others, worse than him, who might learn about you, about Lily, about Marcus's daughter. His hand came up, and I froze. But he only brushed a strand of hair from my face, his touch impossibly gentle. Without my protection, you're vulnerable, and I couldn't live with myself if something happened to her because I let you go. That's emotional blackmail. That's reality. His hand dropped. I'm not the villain in your story, Emma. I'm not the one who abandoned you. I'm not the one who chose money over family. I'm offering you a chance at a better life. The only question is whether you're brave enough to take it. I wanted to argue, wanted to rage against the unfairness of it all. But standing there, looking down at Marcus, who didn't even know I existed anymore, who'd thrown us away like garbage, and then back at Dante, who'd hunted me down just to make sure Lily had medicine, I felt something shift inside me. Maybe Dante was right. Maybe blood didn't make family. Maybe loyalty did. If I agree, I said slowly. I need rules. Boundaries. Interest sparked in Dante's eyes, such as, I make decisions about Lily's upbringing, her education, her activities, her life. You can advise, but I have final say. Agreed. I want to work. Maybe not at the diner, but something. I need to feel like I'm contributing. Agreed. I'll have my people find something suitable. And I took a breath. I want to know what's happening. If there's danger, if something changes, you tell me. No secrets. Dante considered this longer. Some secrets exist for your protection. Then you decide what I need to know, but you don't leave me blind. He studied my face, and slowly he nodded. Deal. But I have conditions too. Of course you do. You live where I tell you to live. The apartment isn't safe. The locks are cheap. The neighborhood is getting worse, and I can't properly secure it. I have a property, a townhouse, fully furnished, gated community with security. You and Lily move in by the end of the week. My first instinct was to refuse, but I thought of the water stains, the broken radiator, Mrs. Chen's footsteps overhead at 3 a.m. What else? You keep the phone I gave you on you at all times. You check in once a day. And if I call, you answer. That sounds like surveillance. That sounds like making sure you're alive. His voice softened. Emma, you have no idea how many people would love to hurt me through the people I protect. This isn't paranoia. It's necessity. I wanted to argue, but I thought of Lily, of her little face, her tiny hands. Could I really risk her safety because of my pride? Fine, I said, but I'm not some doll you get to dress up and show off. I have a life, friends, a routine. Keep them all. Just keep them safe too. He pulled out his phone, tapped something, then showed me a photo. It was a townhouse, cream-colored, with window boxes and a bright red door, trees lining the street. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. The nursery is already set up, but you can redecorate however you want. Move-in ready? It was beautiful. Too beautiful. The kind of place I'd walked past and dreamed about but never thought I'd live in. When can I see it? Tomorrow morning. I'll pick you up at 9. I can drive myself. Emma. He said my name like a sigh. This is going to be much easier if you let me do things my way. And it'll be much easier for me if you remember I'm not one of your employees. A real smile crossed his face then, transforming him from dangerous to devastating. No. You're definitely not. The moment stretched between us, charged with something I didn't want to name. Then Dante's phone buzzed, shattering it. He glanced at the screen, and his expression shifted back to business. I need to handle something. Luca will take you back to your car. Wait. I gestured to the window. Can I talk to him? To Marcus? Why? Closure. Like I said, Dante studied me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. 5 minutes. Luca will be with you. And Emma? Don't expect apologies. Men like Marcus don't know how to give them. He was right, of course. Luca led me down to the warehouse floor, and as we approached Marcus, I saw him properly for the first time in over a year. He was thinner, harder, with dark circles under his eyes and a wariness that hadn't been there before. When he looked up and saw me, he froze. Emma? His voice was exactly as I remembered. The voice that had whispered promises, that had said he loved me, that had gone silent when I needed it most. Hello, Marcus. He looked around nervously, at Luca, at the other workers who'd stopped to watch. What are you doing here? How did you... Then understanding dawned. Moretti, he told you. He did. Look, whatever he said about me, it's... You have a daughter. The words came out flat, cold. Her name is Lily. She's 8 months old. She has your eyes. Marcus went pale. Emma, I couldn't... You couldn't what? Couldn't stay? Couldn't face responsibility? Couldn't even mention us when they asked if anyone cared you were gone? It's not like that. But his eyes were darting, looking for escape, and I saw him for what he truly was. A coward, a child in a man's body, always running. What's it like then, Marcus? Explain it to me. I was scared, okay? The money, the pressure, Moretti's people breathing down my neck. I panicked. I made mistakes, but I was going to come back. I swear, I was going to. You weren't. I stepped closer, and he actually flinched. You forgot about us the moment you left. And you know what? That's fine. We don't need you. We never did. Emma, please, if you could just talk to Moretti, tell him what? That you're sorry? That you deserve another chance? I laughed, bitter and hard. You're exactly where you deserve to be, Marcus. And my daughter? She's going to grow up knowing her father was a coward. But she'll also grow up safe, protected, and loved, which is more than you ever gave us. I turned to leave, but Marcus grabbed my arm. Instantly, Luca was there, his hand clamping down on Marcus's wrist, with enough force to make him gasp and release me. Don't, Luca growled. Ever. Marcus stumbled back, cradling his wrist, and I saw fear in his eyes. Real, genuine fear. Good. Goodbye, Marcus, I said. I hope the next 5 years teach you what you should have learned when I told you I was pregnant. I walked away without looking back, Luca at my side, and felt something break loose in my chest. Not my heart. Marcus had broken that a year ago. This was different. This was the chains of what if and maybe, and someday finally snapping. I was free of him. In the parking lot, as I reached my car, I looked back at the warehouse. In the elevated office, silhouetted against the light, Dante stood watching. Even from this distance, I felt the weight of his gaze. I raised my hand in a small wave. He nodded once, a gesture of acknowledgement, respect. And somehow, I knew everything had changed. Tomorrow, I would see the townhouse. Tomorrow, I would start making decisions about this new life. Tomorrow, Lily and I would step into Dante Moretti's world. But tonight, I drove home to my daughter, to Teresa, who'd already put her to bed, and I held Lily close in the dark apartment that would soon no longer be ours. We're going to be okay, I whispered to her sleeping form. Better than okay, I promise. And for the first time in a year, I actually believed it. Dante arrived at exactly 9 the next morning, driving himself this time, a sleek black Audi that purred like a contented predator. I watched from the window as he stepped out, dressed more casually than I'd seen him before. Dark jeans, a charcoal sweater that probably cost more than my monthly rent, leather jacket. He still looked dangerous, but less like a mobster and more like a man who could break hearts as easily as bones. I'd been awake since 5, alternating between packing essentials and second-guessing everything. 3 garbage bags sat by the door, stuffed with Lily's clothes, my work uniforms, our meager possessions. Looking at them, I felt a wave of shame. This was my entire life, and it fit in 3 trash bags. Ready? Dante asked when I opened the door. His eyes swept over the bags, and something softened in his expression. I'll have movers come this afternoon for the furniture. There's nothing worth moving. The couch is from Goodwill. The table wobbles. I stopped, hating how defensive I sounded. It's all junk. Then we'll get new things, whatever you want. He picked up 2 of the bags like they weighed nothing. Where's Lily? Teresa has her. She offered to watch her during the move, make the transition easier. I grabbed the 3rd bag in my purse. She's good with her. Lily actually smiled this morning, first time since the fever. Something crossed Dante's face. Pleasure, satisfaction, I couldn't tell. Teresa raised my cousins. If she approves of you, that means something in my family. Does she approve? She called me last night, said, and I quote, "That girl has a spine of steel and a heart of gold. Don't you dare fuck this up." He smiled slightly. Teresa doesn't mince words. Despite everything, I laughed. I like her. She likes you too. That's rare. He loaded the bags into his trunk with careful precision. She doesn't trust easily. None of us do. The drive took 20 minutes, moving from my rundown neighborhood through increasingly nicer streets. Trees appeared, then actual yards, then gates with security codes. The townhouse was in a community called Riverside Gardens, surrounded by brick walls and monitored by cameras I tried not to look at too directly. Dante punched in a code at the gate, and it swung open smoothly. The street inside was something from a magazine. Perfectly manicured lawns, expensive cars in driveways, children's toys scattered in yards suggesting the kind of safe, normal life I'd always wanted for Lily. Here, Dante said, pulling into the driveway of the townhouse from the photo. Up close, it was even more beautiful. Cream-colored brick, black shutters, window boxes with actual flowers. The red door was glossy and perfect, with a wreath of autumn leaves hanging on it. It looked like a home, like somewhere people built lives and memories, not just survived. "The code is Lily's birthday," Dante said, handing me a key. 0327. I've programmed it into the security system. There are cameras on the front and back doors, but none inside. I'm not a voyeur, Emma. Just careful. My hands shook as I took the key. This is too much. This is necessary. He unlocked the door and pushed it open. After you. The interior stole my breath. Hardwood floors gleamed under morning light streaming through large windows. The living room was furnished with a comfortable-looking sectional in soft gray, a coffee table with actual books on it, artwork on the walls that looked original, not printed. An open concept kitchen gleamed with stainless steel appliances and granite countertops. Everything was clean, tasteful, perfect. "Upstairs," Dante said, watching my reaction with unreadable eyes. I climbed the stairs in a daze. 3 bedrooms, just like he'd said. The master was spacious, with a king-sized bed already made up in white linens, an ensuite bathroom with a tub I could actually soak in. The second bedroom had been set up as an office, with a desk and bookshelves and a window overlooking the backyard. But the third room, I stood in the doorway, tears blurring my vision. It was a nursery. Not just functional, but magical. The walls were painted a soft sage green, with hand-painted flowers climbing up one corner. A white crib with delicate scrollwork sat against the wall, mobile hanging above it with felt clouds and stars. A rocking chair with plush cushions sat by the window. Shelves held books and toys appropriate for Lily's age. A changing table was stocked with diapers, wipes, lotions. Everything a baby could possibly need. "Teresa helped design it," Dante said from behind me. "She said every child deserves a room that feels like magic." I couldn't speak, couldn't process this level of care, of thought. This wasn't just throwing money at a problem. This was someone imagining my daughter's life, wanting her to feel special, loved. "Why?" I finally managed, my voice breaking. "Why do all this for a child you don't even know?" Dante was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was softer than I'd ever heard it. "When I was 7, my mother died. Cancer. My father was already gone. I had no one. And then my godfather, Antonio Moretti, he took me in. He didn't have to. He could have sent me to distant relatives, to the state, anywhere, but he chose to raise me as his own son." He moved into the nursery, trailing his fingers along the crib's edge. "He taught me everything, how to be strong, how to lead, how to survive in our world. But more than that, he taught me about honor, about responsibility, about what it means to protect the people you claim as family." He turned to face me. "Before he died, he made me promise that I would honor the old ways, that any child connected to me through blood or oath would never be alone, would never be unsafe. Lily isn't connected to you, not really. Marcus broke that connection when he stole from you." "No." Dante's voice was firm. "Marcus broke his connection to me. But I made an oath about his children before he was even married, before he even thought about having kids. That oath doesn't disappear because he's a thief. If anything, it matters more now." He stepped closer. "Lily is innocent, and she deserves everything I can give her. That's not negotiable." I wiped my eyes, trying to compose myself. "What about me? Where do I fit in this? Wherever you want to fit." He studied my face intently. "You're Lily's mother. That makes you untouchable in my world. No one harms you. No one disrespects you. No one even looks at you wrong." His jaw tightened. "But I won't pretend this is simple. There are rules, expectations. People will watch you, judge you, assume things about our relationship." "What kind of things?" "That you're my mistress, my girlfriend, my weakness." He said it matter-of-factly, like discussing the weather. "In my world, women connected to men like me are either family or property. You're neither, which will confuse people. So what am I?" Dante held my gaze, something intense and unnameable burning in his dark eyes. "You're under my protection. That's all anyone needs to know." But it wasn't all I needed to know. Standing in this perfect nursery, in this perfect house, with this dangerous man who'd upended my entire life in 3 days, I needed to understand what he wanted, what this really cost. "Dante, be honest with me. What do you gain from this? What's your angle?" "No angle." He said it simply, but his eyes were complex, layered with things I couldn't read. "I gain peace. I gain knowing I honored my oath. I gain—" He stopped, seeming to reconsider his words. "I gain the satisfaction of doing right by a child who deserves better than what fate gave her." "That's it? Just obligation and satisfaction?" What else would there be? Everything, I wanted to say. The way he looked at me sometimes, like I was a puzzle he was trying to solve. The way his voice softened when he talked about Lily. The way he'd arranged this house, this life, with such careful attention to detail. Men didn't do that for obligation. They did it for something deeper. But I didn't say any of that. Instead, "Thank you for all of this. It's more than I ever expected. You deserve more than you expect, Emma." He moved toward the door. "I'll bring your bags up. Get settled. Teresa will bring Lily by this afternoon. And tomorrow—" He paused. "Tomorrow, I'd like to take you shopping. For Lily. For you. For anything you need to make this place feel like home. I can't afford— I can." His tone left no room for argument. "And before you tell me you don't want my money, remember that this isn't about you. It's about giving Lily everything she needs, including a mother who isn't exhausted and stressed and wearing herself into the ground." He left before I could respond, his footsteps echoing down the stairs. I stood alone in the nursery, running my hands over the soft blankets in the crib, the books on the shelves, the mobile that tinkled gently when I touched it. This was real. This was happening. My daughter would sleep in this room, play with these toys, grow up in this house. Safe, protected, loved. The thought should have brought pure relief. But underneath it was something more complicated. Because Dante Moretti was becoming real to me too. Not just a dangerous stranger, not just Lily's godfather, but a man. A man with a past that shaped him, principles that guided him, and eyes that saw more than I wanted him to see. I spent the afternoon unpacking our meager belongings, which looked ridiculous scattered through the spacious rooms. My work uniforms hanging in a closet designed for a full wardrobe. Lily's handful of toys spread across shelves meant for dozens more. Our poverty had never felt more obvious than it did in this abundance. Teresa arrived at 3 with Lily, who'd been fed, changed, and was in the best mood I'd seen her in days. The antibiotics were working. "Oh, mija!" Teresa's eyes went wide as she stepped inside. "This is beautiful. Mr. Moretti did well. He said you helped design the nursery. I made suggestions. He made decisions." She handed Lily to me, and my daughter immediately grabbed for my hair, babbling happily. That man has good instincts when he listens to them. "Come, show me everything." We toured the house together, Teresa pointing out details I'd missed. The security panel by the back door, the emergency contacts already programmed into the house phone, the fully stocked pantry and refrigerator that had appeared while I was upstairs. "He thinks of everything," Teresa said, opening cupboards to reveal dishes, pots, pans, everything a kitchen needed, sometimes too much, too fast. "But his heart is in the right place. Does he have family, besides you and the cousins you raised?" Teresa's expression grew careful. "He has the family he's built, the people who work for him, who he protects. Blood family." She shook her head. "Most are gone. His mother, his godfather, his grandmother. There are cousins in Italy, but they're distant. Mr. Moretti is a lonely man, Emma. Powerful, feared, respected, but lonely. He doesn't seem lonely. The loneliest people never do." Teresa touched my arm gently. "Be patient with him. He's not used to having people question him, challenge him, but I think—" She smiled. "I think you're good for him. I'm not here for him. I'm here for Lily. Of course." But Teresa's smile suggested she didn't quite believe me. That evening, After Teresa left and Lily was bathed and fed and drowsing in my arms, I sat in the rocking chair in the nursery and called my mother. She answered on the first ring. "Emma, I've been trying to reach you all day. Your neighbor Rita said you moved? What's going on?" I'd been dreading this conversation. My mother, Rita Santos, was fierce and protective and would lose her mind when she learned about Dante, but she deserved the truth. "Mom, something happened. Something complicated." I took a breath. "Remember Marcus? Lily's father? That pendejo? What about him? He got involved with dangerous people, owed them money. And through a series of crazy circumstances, I ended up meeting his boss, I guess, a man named Dante Moretti." Silence. Then, "Moretti? Emma, please tell me you're not involved with the Moretti family." My stomach dropped. "You know them?" "Everyone knows them, mija. She lowered her voice. "They're mafia. Real mafia. Not just criminals. They control half this city." "Emma, what have you done?" "I didn't do anything. Marcus made an agreement with Dante years ago about godparents, and now Dante says Lily is his goddaughter. He's given us a house, Mom. A safe house, in a good neighborhood. He's protecting us." "Protecting you from what?" "From Marcus's enemies, from anyone who might come looking for revenge, from—" I stopped, realizing the truth. "From being alone and vulnerable." My mother was quiet for a long time. "Is he good to you? This Dante?" I looked around the perfect nursery, thought about the medication, the house, the way he'd called Lily innocent. "He's honorable, in his way." "And what does he want in return?" "Nothing. He says it's about the oath, about tradition. Men like that always want something, Emma. Maybe not now, maybe not soon, but eventually." Her voice softened. "Just be careful, okay? Don't fall for the money, the protection, the pretty words. Remember who he is, what he does." "I know, Mom. I'm being careful." But as I hung up and looked down at Lily, sleeping peacefully in my arms, I wondered if it was already too late for careful. Because careful would have meant never texting that wrong number. Careful would have meant running when Dante first appeared. Careful would have meant not feeling my heart skip when he said my name. My phone buzzed. A text from the number I now recognized instantly. "Everything okay? Do you need anything?" I stared at it, my mother's warnings echoing in my head. Then I typed back, "We're fine. The house is perfect. Thank you." His response came quickly. "Good. Sleep well, Emma. Tomorrow we shop, then dinner. I want to introduce you to some people." "What people?" "My family. The ones who will protect Lily when I'm not around." My heart hammered. Meeting his family meant becoming real in his world, meant crossing a line I couldn't uncross. "Okay. Don't worry. They'll love you." I set the phone down and carried Lily to the crib, laying her down gently among the soft blankets and stuffed animals. She sighed in her sleep, one small fist curling near her face, and looked more peaceful than I'd ever seen her. This was right. This house, this safety, this chance at a better life. No matter what it cost me, no matter what complications arose, Lily deserved this. And if that meant navigating Dante Moretti's world, learning his rules, meeting his family, if it meant pretending my pulse didn't race when he stood too close, if it meant ignoring the way his eyes lingered on me like I was something precious, then that's what I would do. For her. Only for her. I repeated it like a mantra as I got ready for bed, as I lay in sheets that smelled like lavender and felt like clouds, as I stared at the ceiling of a house I'd never dreamed I could live in, only for her. But in the dark, honest part of my mind, I knew I was lying. Because when Dante had said I deserved more than I expected, when he'd looked at me with those intense eyes, when he'd created this perfect space for my daughter, some part of me had started to wonder what it would be like if this wasn't just about obligation, if it was about something more, something dangerous, something that felt terrifyingly like fate. The restaurant was the kind of place I'd only seen in movies. Dim lighting, white tablecloths, waiters in actual tuxedos gliding between tables like dancers. Crystal chandeliers cast soft light over patrons who wore their wealth casually, the way I wore my jeans. Dante had sent a dress to the house that morning. Deep emerald green, simple but elegant, with a note that said simply, "Wear this." I'd almost refused on principle. But when I tried it on, when I saw how it transformed me from tired single mom into someone who belonged in his world, I'd kept it on. Now, walking through the restaurant with Dante's hand on the small of my back, I felt every eye turn toward us. Curious, assessing, judging. "Relax," Dante murmured near my ear. "You look beautiful." They're staring because they're jealous. They're staring because they're wondering who I am and what I'm doing with you. Let them wonder. His hand pressed more firmly against my back, possessive and reassuring at once. All that matters is that they know you're mine to protect. The word mine shouldn't have sent heat through me, but it did. We were led to a private room in the back, where 5 people already sat around a table, 3 men and 2 women, all watching our approach with varying degrees of interest and suspicion. "Everyone," Dante said, his voice carrying easy authority. "This is Emma Santos. Emma, this is my family." He introduced them one by one. Luca, the scarred guard I already knew, who nodded at me with something almost like respect. Marco, Dante's cousin, younger and handsome in a careless way, who looked me over with open curiosity. Giovanni, an older man with silver hair and sharp eyes, who Dante described as his consigliere, his advisor, and the 2 women, Isabella, Marco's wife, elegant and coolly beautiful, and Sophia, Giovanni's daughter, who smiled at me with genuine warmth. "So you're the one who's got Dante rearranging his entire life," Isabella said, sipping her wine. "Interesting." "I haven't rearranged anything," Dante said, pulling out my chair before sitting beside me. "I'm fulfilling an oath." "Right. An oath." Marco grinned. "That's why you spent 3 days personally overseeing the house setup, vetted the security yourself, and have been checking your phone every 5 minutes to make sure she's okay." Dante's expression didn't change, but I felt him tense beside me. The baby had an ear infection. I was being thorough. "Uh-huh." Marco's grin widened, but Sophia kicked him under the table. I saw him wince, and the teasing stopped. Dinner was surreal. They talked business in careful code, never saying anything explicitly illegal, but making it clear they were discussing operations, territories, problems that needed handling. But they also talked about normal things: Isabella's daughter's upcoming recital, Marco's obsession with learning to make authentic carbonara, Sophia's new job at an art gallery. They treated me carefully at first, like I was made of glass or might bolt at any moment. But as the evening progressed, as I answered their questions about Lily and held my own in conversation, something shifted. They relaxed, accepted. "How old is your daughter?" Sophia asked, leaning forward with genuine interest. 8 months. She just started trying to crawl." "Oh, that's such a fun age, before they can really get into trouble." Sophia smiled. "I'd love to meet her sometime. I'm terrible with kids, but I give great gifts." "Sophia gives impractical gifts," Isabella corrected. "Last year she bought Marco's daughter a toy drum set." "The child showed musical interest." "The child showed interest in making noise," Marco muttered, but he was smiling. Watching them banter, seeing the easy affection beneath the hard exterior, I started to understand. This was Dante's family, not the organization, not the business. These people who knew him, challenged him, cared about him. "Emma," Giovanni said, his voice cutting through the laughter. "May I ask you a frank question?" The table went quiet. Dante stiffened beside me, but I nodded. "Of course." "Why did you agree to this arrangement? The house, the protection, entering this world. You could have refused, taken your daughter, and disappeared. Why didn't you?" I thought about lying, about giving the easy answer, but these people valued honesty. Dante valued honesty, because I was tired, I said quietly. Tired of struggling alone, tired of being afraid, tired of counting pennies while my daughter needed medicine. And because I glanced at Dante, found him watching me with those intense eyes. Because he made me a promise that Lily would never be unsafe, never be alone. And I believed him. "Do you still believe him?" Giovanni pressed. Yes. Even knowing what we are, what we do? I don't know what you do. Not specifically. And maybe that makes me naive, but I straightened my shoulders. I know you're dangerous. I know you operate outside the law. But I also know Dante kept his word about everything. The house, the security, even the way he treats me. With respect, not like property. So yes, I believe him. Silence. Then Giovanni smiled, a real smile that transformed his stern face. Good answer. Welcome to the family, Emma Santos. The rest of dinner was easier. They told stories about Dante as a child, his godfather Antonio, the ways their world worked. Isabella even pulled me aside in the bathroom, touching up her lipstick while studying me in the mirror. You're good for him, she said finally. Everyone keeps saying that. I don't see how. Because you don't treat him like he's God. You question him, challenge him, make him explain himself. She capped her lipstick, turned to face me. Dante's been alone for years. Oh, he has us, has the organization. But alone in the ways that matter. He needed someone to care about, someone to protect. You gave him that. I gave him an obligation. That's different. Is it? Isabella's smile was knowing. The way he looks at you suggests otherwise. My heart hammered. He doesn't... We're not... Not yet, but you will be. She squeezed my hand. Just don't wait too long. Men like Dante, they don't know how to ask for what they want in matters of the heart. You have to meet them halfway. Before I could respond, she swept out of the bathroom, leaving me staring at my reflection. The woman looking back was different from the one who'd stood in the hospital parking lot 4 days ago. Better dressed, yes, but also stronger, more certain, more dangerous. When we left the restaurant, Dante's hand found the small of my back again, guiding me to his car, but instead of opening my door, he paused. Walk with me, he said. We walked along the waterfront, the city lights reflecting off the dark water, the November air cold enough to make me shiver. Dante shrugged out of his jacket and draped it over my shoulders without asking, the weight of it warm and heavy, smelling like him. Your family is nice, I said, breaking the silence. They like you. That's rare. He was quiet for a moment. Giovanni's approval means everything. He was my godfather's best friend, helped raise me. If he'd disapproved, things would have been complicated. What would you have done? Kept you anyway. He said it simply, like it was obvious. But it's better this way. We walked further, and I could feel him building up to something. The tension in his shoulders, the way he kept glancing at me then away. Emma, I need to tell you something. My stomach dropped. What? Marcus tried to escape yesterday. I stopped walking. What? He made it to the fence before my men caught him. He fought back. Dante's jaw tightened. It got violent. Is he... He's alive. But he's been transferred to a more secure location. Somewhere he can work off his debt without the temptation to run. Dante turned to face me fully. I wanted you to know, in case you had any lingering feelings. Any hope that maybe he'd... I don't. The words came out firm, certain. I stopped hoping for Marcus a long time ago. Seeing him the other night just confirmed what I already knew. He's not Lily's father, not in any way that matters. He's just the man who gave her DNA. Good, Dante's voice was rough, because what I'm about to say next is going to be complicated enough without Marcus in the equation. My pulse raced. What are you going to say? He stepped closer. Close enough that I had to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. Close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from him despite the cold air. This arrangement, the house, the protection, the godfather role, it was supposed to be simple. An obligation fulfilled, but nothing about you is simple, Emma. His hand came up, cupping my face with surprising gentleness. You challenge me. You question me. You look at me like I'm a man, not a monster. And every time I see you with Lily, every time you smile at something I've done, every time you wear that stubborn expression when you're about to argue with me. He stopped, seeming to struggle with the words. What? I whispered. I want more. His thumb brushed across my cheekbone. More than obligation. More than duty. I want you, Emma, both of you, as my family, really mine. The world tilted. Dante? I know it's fast. I know it's complicated. I know I'm not the kind of man you probably dreamed about. Stop. I pressed my hand over his mouth, silencing him. Just stop. He went still, his eyes searching mine. You're right. You're not what I dreamed about. You're dangerous, controlling. You live in a world I don't understand. I lowered my hand slowly, but you're also honorable. You kept your promises. You treat my daughter like she matters. You look at me like... I swallowed hard, like I'm not invisible. You could never be invisible, not to me. I'm scared, I admitted. Scared of this, of you, of what wanting this might mean. I'm scared too. His confession was barely audible. I've survived wars, betrayals, attempts on my life, but the thought of you walking away, of losing this chance, his other hand came up, framing my face. That terrifies me. We stood there, the cold air swirling around us, the city alive with sound and light, and everything balanced on this moment. I could step back, could thank him politely and keep our relationship professional, safe, could protect my heart the way he protected everything else. Or I could step forward. I stepped forward. Our lips met softly at first, tentative, testing. But then his arms came around me, pulling me against him, and the kiss deepened into something desperate and claiming and inevitable. He tasted like wine and danger and promises, and I felt something inside me finally give way. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante pressed his forehead against mine. Come home with me, he whispered. Not the townhouse, my home. Let me show you everything, all of it. No more secrets. What about Lily? Teresa's with her. She'll stay as long as we need. His hands ran down my back, holding me close. I want you to know who I am, Emma. What I've done. What I'm capable of. And then I want you to choose, really choose. Not because you're obligated, not because you're scared, but because you want this too. It should have terrified me, but standing there in his arms, feeling safer than I'd felt in years, I nodded. Okay, show me. His house was a mansion in the hills, all stone and glass and security. He walked me through it room by room, showing me the office where he conducted business, the armory that made my blood run cold, the files that detailed every operation, every connection, every dark corner of his empire. This is what I am, he said, his voice steady, but his eyes betraying vulnerability. This is the world you'd be entering, not just safety and protection, but this, all of this. I studied the man before me, the one who'd hunted me down to honor an oath, who'd created a perfect nursery for my daughter, who'd looked at me in a parking lot and decided we mattered. I see it, I said, and I'm still here. Something broke in his expression, relief, joy, hope. He kissed me again, slower this time, thorough, like he was memorizing the taste of me. And when he led me upstairs to his bedroom, when he made love to me with the intensity that stole my breath, I felt the last of my resistance crumble. This was right. Complicated and dangerous and insane, but right. We talked until dawn, lying tangled in his sheets, sharing stories. He told me about his mother's death, his godfather's teachings, the weight of leading his family. I told him about my childhood, my dreams, my fears. We mapped each other's scars and secrets, building something new from our broken pieces. When sunlight streamed through the windows, he propped himself up on one elbow, looking down at me with soft eyes. Marry me. I blinked. What? Marry me. Make this real. Let me be Lily's father in truth, not just tradition. Let me be your husband, your partner, your... He stopped, seeming to search for words. My godfather used to say that family isn't just blood. It's choice. I choose you, Emma. Both of you. Choose me back. It was insane. We'd known each other less than a week. But lying there, looking into his eyes, I realized something. I'd been choosing him from the moment I stepped out of that hospital. Every decision, every risk, every moment I'd trusted him. It had all been leading here. Yes, I whispered. His smile was blinding, transformative. Yes. Yes, I'll marry you. We'll be your family. Yes to all of it. I pulled him down for a kiss, but I have conditions. He laughed against my lips. Of course you do. We do this right. We date properly. Let Lily get used to you being around. We don't rush into anything public until we're sure. Agreed. And you teach me about your world, not just the dangerous parts, all of it. I won't be a kept woman who doesn't understand her husband's life. I'd expect nothing less. His hand traced patterns on my back. Anything else? Just one more thing. I met his eyes seriously. You have to promise that Lily always comes first. Before business, before obligation, before everything. She's the most important thing in this equation. Emma. He cupped my face gently. She was the most important thing from the moment I learned she existed. That will never change. And I believed him. 3 months later, we married in a small ceremony, just his family and mine, Lily in a white dress babbling happily through the vows. Marcus's debt was paid through alternative means. Dante arranged for him to relocate to the West Coast, with the understanding that he'd never contact us again. I started working at Sophia's gallery, discovering a talent for art curation I never knew I had. Lily took her first steps in our house, now truly ours, filled with toys and laughter and life. She called Dante Papa before she turned 1, and the first time she did, I watched this dangerous man crumble into tears. The world we inhabited was complicated, sometimes frightening. But we navigated it together. Dante taught me to be strong without being hard, how to command respect in rooms full of dangerous men, how to protect what mattered while still holding on to humanity, and I taught him how to be soft. How to read bedtime stories with silly voices, how to have tickle fights on Sunday mornings, how to love without fear. 2 years after that wrong number text, I stood in the nursery, now Lily's big girl room, watching Dante rock our son to sleep. Alessandro, named after his godfather Antonio. Another child to protect, another promise to keep. What are you thinking? Dante asked softly, noticing me in the doorway. That I'm grateful. For what? For transposing those numbers. For accidentally texting a stranger. For fate deciding we should meet. I moved to his side, looking down at our sleeping son. For you not letting me run. He shifted Alessandro carefully and wrapped his free arm around me. I would have chased you to the ends of the earth. I know. That's what made me stay. I leaned into him, breathing in the scent that meant home. You're terrifyingly persistent, only about things that matter. He kissed the top of my head. And you matter, Emma Moretti. You and our children. More than anything in this world. Outside, the city continued its dangerous dance. But in this room, in this moment, we were safe. We were whole. We were family. And it had all started with a wrong number and a man who understood that the greatest power wasn't in taking what you wanted, it was in protecting what you loved.